Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Yvonne from GingerChickRehab. I am so glad to have you back checking out what Chris and I are up to. So yes, in today's video, do you ever think, oh my gosh, I love this piece. I know these types of pieces sell. I'm at a garage sale. I'm like, yeah, I better grab it before anybody else gets it. And the next thing you know, it is in my car, it is at home, and it's in our workshop ready to be done. And then you get to it and you're like, oh, so many problems. So I have 3 pieces that I am sharing with you that I'm like, yeah, if I would have thought about it a little bit harder, I might have left them behind. But that's just kind of Chris and I's tale, is that we find the neediest items that we think, oh, this will be easy. Let's just add some paint to it and let's flip it and, you know, make some money. Nope, no. That is never how it works for us. So in today's video, we are sharing the process of this trio that looked good from afar. And then when you got your hands on it and you think, oh, even when you had your hands on it and you think, oh, well, this is going to be fine, some problems arise. But we're going to share the problems and how we overcame them to, yes, get these items saved from the trash bin, from the dump, from the burn pit, which is, yeah, there was a couple of them. It was close. So when I spotted this one at a garage sale, it was the butcher block. I have to tell you, it was the butcher block that got me. Look at that piece of wood, how thick it is, how big it is. I can't necessarily, I saw a little bit of the wonkiness and the damage, and I'm like, that's not too bad. We can make that all better. And then you get it home. So let's deal with the support beam problem first. So Chris is going to have to cut another piece of wood that was missing that holds all 4 corners together. Scrap piece of wood, cut to size, guesstimate on what it's supposed to be because it wasn't there. So he's going to go ahead and drill some pocket holes into this scrap piece of wood because of the water damage. It's not going to be staying natural, so it doesn't really matter what the piece of wood looks like. So to support that huge butcher block piece, it definitely needs this four sides support beam. So what he's doing here is just a little bit of tight glue. The pocket holes are so he can make it flush because of course it's the one that's where the drawer is. So you want to make it flush so your drawer will still slide in and out. So now the shelf on the bottom is loose. There's not anywhere to screw it in, tighten up any screws. I don't know. There was a lot of those A, B, C, D, E, F, G stickers all over it. So I think it was one of those put together by letter type of things. So once you got the legs on, it was supposed to stay tight, but nope, it did not. So he's going to go ahead and brand nail all 4 sides so that shelf stays in place. I would love the chrome features to stay on these wheels, but as you see at the bottom, we got some water damage here, so it may be too rusty and crusty for me to make nice and shiny, but we'll see what some Dawn dish soap will do. So as Chris got the top coat sanded off of these, you can still see I would like to try to keep this shelf natural to go with the drawer. Just a little bit of added feature to go with the butcher block. But I need to see if I can get the water damage spots off of this second shelf. Okay, so let's see how this works. So I have Clorox bleach. Yep, just straight Clorox bleach. And what I'm doing, I'm really concentrating on the areas that have those black spots on it. But I also need to make sure I'm bleaching the entire thing because it will show that you just bleached that spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on heavily. It's got it, you can kind of see it goes into the layers of the wood. I'm going to walk away for about 10 minutes, let the bleach do what it does. I'm going to come back with some sandpaper, try to open up that grain a little bit more with some 80 grit, trying to get that bleach to work in there. We're going to pop over to the butcher block piece itself, and oddly enough, there's not even any cut marks on here. I see a little bit of staining, like some oil maybe, but there really isn't any huge problems with the top. Amen to that, because I really didn't want to have to try to bleach any staining out of here. The water damage seems to be only at the base, so this is just a beautiful, massive piece of wood. And then there again, I don't get to keep the chrome features of these bars. They had to be sanded. There was rust and crusty on those also. I'm not even sure. To try to take it apart at this point of its life isn't worth it or replacing, but it's a nice little feature, and I will just get it cleaned up with some crud cutter and let it dry before moving on to getting its new coat of paint. The positions you have to get into to spray a piece. So now the shelf sat overnight after I bleached those spots and really rinsed. You want to make sure you get all that bleach off there. Let it completely dry overnight to see what it looks like. And yes, I was able to get those water black and damaged spots off. So now I'm sealing it in with a few coats of polycrylic. Don't ever forget your backs, your bottoms, anything like that. Finish that off. Look at all that water damage on the bottom, especially as a reseller when somebody's going to have to transport it into their home. No, they may never see the bottom of this in their home when it's there, but they're going to see it when they're transporting it home. So as much as I love rusty crusty on certain items I do not like it on, especially when I'd like this chrome to be all nice and shiny. It's just not going to happen, but I need to make sure that it's not all bumped and raised, so I'm just taking some 220 grit sandpaper and trying to get that taken down smooth. I want to protect what I just painted by sealing everything in with some polycrylic. Now, since Chris replaced the board, we had really no idea what the size of the board would have been. He needs to lower the drawer slides down a wee bit so that it has room to slide in and out. Okay, that putting back together was the easy part. Now for this beast of butcher block. So the butcher block does not get attached by anything other than it has those secondary pieces that keep it in place from shifting side to side. But since he put that piece of wood, it probably is back too far. Yeah, so yep, so now he needs to move those bottom pieces that were screwed in, figure out the new placement of them so that he can put the butcher block back on so that it sits even. So now I need to seal and protect the butcher block, and you don't put polycrylic or any top coat on here. What you do is you oil them just like a cutting board. So I have my Howard's oil cutting board, butcher block. Oh my goodness, yes. So it is this, as I started to put oil on it, I'm like, oh, she was thirsty. So yes, lots of oil going on in here, but it'll be well worth it to seal in and protect this. And just like that butcher block, this was another one of those pieces that I'm like, I know if I can make this look a little bit better or a lot better, whichever way you want to look at it. Yes, that a buyer will quickly, these are one of those pieces too that will not stay long in the booth, just some extra storage. And I knew that it wasn't the best paint job on there, that I was thinking, well, if I can just sand it and clean it up, it will be so much better. So let's get this taken apart and see what we have. A couple pieces of trim that are loose that holds that tin panel in, so I needed to make sure that I switched out to the shortest brad nails that I have and to nail those back in. You don't want it going all the way through the front, so I always have to double check our machine since you have many sizes of brad nails. So my hope was that I was just going to be able to scrape off the paint from the inside and keep the inside the wooden color. But as I started to scrape, I'm like, white, black, brown. So little did I know when I picked this up, this had been painted at 3 different times. So now my next plan was just to try to sand everything smooth. Just get it down, just get it smooth. Lots of brush strokes going on here, some 80 grit sandpaper, trying to make it smooth as I can. And so as I started to sand, you can now see the 3 layers of paint. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and just sand this piece. There's splatter marks on the back. I need to get those off. They're big and chunky. And so then I'm going to work on trying to make the paint off the top nice and smooth. Hopefully I can get it down to what the wood is. But I really never gave it any thought that this wasn't just a light pine, that nope, it is a press board, just a small thin veneer over press board. So as I'm taking the 80 grit, just like I think it was wood, I got down to the press board and I'm like, oh shoot. Yeah, I never even gave it a thought that this wasn't just a nice pine piece. So now I can't go all the way down, so I had to stop what I was doing and just try to make the paint smooth. And rookie mistake, I should have really looked at those back pieces that are hanging out and I would have saw that press board. But sometimes you just get into a project and you're like, oh, this is just a pine piece, because it's heavy, but the press board is heavy just like wood also. So then I just proceeded on sanding the rest of the piece, and then the white layer was one of those paints that's really gummy. Oh, you know, where it just kind of I don't even know how to explain it. If you have flipped a piece before and you know what I'm talking about, it's like it just keeps peeling up and you just keep having to sand it. Maybe stripper would have been my better bet on this. I just am never really a fan. Either you like doing a stripper or you don't like doing a stripper, and I've already started sanding on this piece, so this is how I'm going to finish it up. Now that we've sanded smooth, we've got it cleaned up and prepped with a card cutter. It's nice and dry. Now I'm going to prep it using a primer. Now this primer is really good on MDF board, press board, shiny surfaces that don't absorb paint in like this. So I'd already sprayed the inside because, as you saw, I did have to sand the layers of paint from the edges of the inside, so I do need to paint the inside. So the inside has the red one. It was just the can that I was using up, and now on the outside I have the gray primer. It doesn't really matter which primer you're using, just something to give that paint just a little bit extra hold to grab onto. Primer can states that I can start my paint application within 15 minutes, but I usually like to wait an hour, and then we have had some storms going through and we have like 110% humidity right now here in Michigan. So even though I have our portable air conditioner running in the workshop, there's still something about humidity in painting. So I let it sit a couple hours before moving on to coat it in paint. My first coat is dry. I need to go in with a second coat and make sure I got everything nice and covered up. And as you see, I did the bottom too. Yep, I do every little area. Not that you're going to see it when somebody has it in their house. It's just the transporting, making everything look clean and new. After getting the hardware depainted, yep, the hardware was painted with the 3 coats. Also, I let it sit in some Murphy's oil soap overnight and usually in hot water, and it just will scrape right off. So now they're getting a fresh coat of paint. And then I'll do a couple coats of polycrylic after it's all dry to seal and protect what I just painted. This piece isn't going to get distressed because of if I tried to do the sharp edges, I'll just be going down to the primer. So come on, you would have picked up this beautiful table too, especially at that estate sale. It's solid, it's heavy, it's got beautiful character. Yeah, the top of needs some sanding. but it doesn't really have any heavy gouges or anything out of it. And it's got a few layers of dirt and dust on it. But what character? I don't know what you all think about the different slats of wood on this piece. I think they're character. I will not fill that in. I want to leave that as is, but I do need to get the top coat off and what stain. I'm hoping to be able to have a two-tone effect on this, but we'll see how this sands off. So I know when Chris was in the process of sanding the top for me, he was just like, this is ugly wood. There's nothing pretty about this. But I'm like, please just trust me. I think I can make it the two-tone effect. So just finish the process of getting all the rest of the stain and the top coat off and making this piece nice and smooth. Sometimes you have to trust the process, and sometimes the in-between is not so pretty. Can't necessarily say it's the wood that's not pretty. I think it's what's happened to the wood over time. And the lady that I bought it from the estate, I don't know how long she had it. I know she was in her 90s when she passed, but look at the underneath. So I'm like, okay, come on, bleach, do your job. So yes, I'm going to take some Clorox bleach to the top of this and see what I can pull off. Now that I have all the bleach on, I'm going to go back in with some 220 sandpaper, open up some of that grain of that wood. Chris got it nice and smooth down, but I want to raise that grain up to get that bleach in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do another second coat because it's really dry wood, so it's really soaking it in. And I let it sit on for about 15 to 20 minutes or so, trying to pull that red off. But now the process of rinsing, you definitely want to make sure that you've got it all rinsed off. Even changing your water out a time or two just to pull all that bleach off. You don't want to leave that bleach behind because when you go to stain it, it will mix in with that stain and you'll have a hot mess. So spend the time to try to get as much as you got off. You can tell because the bleach will suds on your rag if you have it off or not. Now I contact paper taped off the top to protect it, got it flipped over, and now I have it in our spray room, and I'm using the Rust-Oleum primer that is red. That's supposed to eliminate red, which seems funny, but it has been working. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all primed up with the red primer first. So 99.9% of this worked, but this was probably areas that I didn't get coated completely well with the red primer. It happens, so spot checking as it dries. I'm just going to go back in with some shellac, which yes, you could seal in red with shellac, but with shellac it takes a couple coats. So it just all depends on what you want to use to prevent the red. So a couple coats of shellac, let that dry in between, and then I can spot check any areas of that are bleeding through red and yellow on my white paint. I'm going to go back in and seal the whole base of this in using a polycrylic. I won't be distressing any of the edges because I'd just be going down to the red, just kind of like the black one. You just be going down to what the primer is, so just making sure that it is all sealed in. Now I'm going to go ahead and create my own stain using, my base is going to be Waverly Antiquing Wax, full strength, not watered down at all. And then I'm going to go ahead with some of the Dixie Belle's Cocoa Bean, which is a dark true brown. So we're going to add some of that to the mixture. And then to help eliminate the red that might pull through still, I'm going to just do a little popsicle stick of the Waverly ink chalk paint, and with the base of these colors that should help eliminate any red. Now that I have it all applied, and as you saw, I applied it with a brush, I want to make sure that I had it on evenly, that I let it soak into that very dry wood, and now it's time to start wiping it off. To my surprise, it only took one coat. I absolutely love the color that it turned out. I love that you see the different textures, the different grains in the wood. So now I'm going to go ahead and seal this in with Polycrylic. As its top coat, I'm going to go ahead and give it, it is a very dry, thirsty wood, so it's going to soak it right in. And because of the wax, you definitely see that polycrylic as I'm spraying it on, but there again, you need to trust that process of what is going to happen. After 2 coats of the polycrylic, I'm going to go in and steel wool it. Just the bleaching and all that raised that grain, but I left it the way it was before putting the stain on because I knew I'd go back in and I wanted that stain to get in there. So yep, just some fine grit steel wool now to make sure everything is nice and smooth, with one more finish coat of polycrylic to finish this beautiful piece off. Okay, so what did you think? Oh my goodness, this trio, I'm not going to call it a problem child because I already knew going into these 3 pieces that we were going to have a little bit of problems. So let's start right off with that butcher block. Yes, those rolling island carts are so handy. That butcher block was in wonderful shape. Did not realize that it wasn't just an off-center drawer, that it was missing one of the sides, this topper, and you think, oh, I've got that fixed. Well, then you didn't cut, it wasn't the right size because you're just kind of guesstimating. And yeah, anyway, so we worked through, got the water damage, and now it is a beautiful, beautiful piece. Okay, so now we go on to the little pie-shaped chimney type of cupboard, which those are a hot ticket item. Yeah, usually I've had ones go unpainted that people have stopped over like, can I get that off you right in our workshop? So I never really get to make one over. Yeah, I thought this was going to have just one coat of paint, but we had a brown, we had a black, and then we had a white, and the white was a sticky, that gummy type of paint. I don't know if it was the humidity here in Michigan right now, but I just think it was the paint. So there's that, and then, rookie mistake, not looking at the back. So we got that all fixed. Yes, it's a beautiful piece now. These are, yeah. So now let's take the estate sale table. Now, I already knew going into that from my other red problem with that cherry hutch that, yes, I knew it was going to throw red. Thought that the top would just sand down beautifully, which it kind of did, but yeah, like a really bad speckled cheetah, zebra type, who else is speckled out there? Dalmatian. So, yeah. So thank you that the Clorox bleach trick worked. I just did a dark stain. Yeah, and even if, like the stain that I use that I created myself is similar, I think, to the gel stains that they have that just really deposit pigment. And yes, it turned out absolutely beautiful. I'm happy. A little bit of problems here and there of some bleed through after I painted it white, but no problem. Would I rethink these pieces if I saw them out and about again? I don't know, because we always seem to solve the problems and overcome them. So I don't know, glutton for punishment. So anyway, So I hope you enjoyed today's content, and as always, give me a quick comment. Did you think I was completely off my rocker? Do you think, what is Chris putting up with me for? So yes, give me a comment too as which one of the 3 pieces were your favorite, or did you love them all? So thanks again for watching today's video, guys, and as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out this content for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we've uploaded a new video, and we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!